Hi my dear students, welcome to S4 Sharanya Science classes. Today we are going to discuss about some non-Mendelian inheritance. In the previous session we have discussed about Mendelian inheritance. In that we have discussed monohybrid cross, dihybrid cross, how the characters are inherited to that offsprings, right? You have seen that in Mendelian inheritance, that means in the monohybrid and dihybrid cross we have done. In that you can see that whether the pea plant is tall, right, and dwarf, right, the parents are tall and dwarf, the offsprings will be either tall or dwarf. Intermediate there is no production, right, so there is no intermediates are forming there. We can say that either tall, near to dwarf, right, in between normal height or like that na combination we are not getting, but actually it is happening like that. There are so many characters which is not at all following this type of inheritance, right. So we can say that there are so many characters in pea plant which we have that studied, right, or which Mendel have studied, the 7 contrasting character, he got same result. So that's why he formulated that, right, the Mendelian inheritance, we can say that. That rule, that law of inheritance he formulated like that, because whatever the contrasting character he have done, he got the result. Whether it is white flower and violet flower, he got either white or violet. Intermediate, that mixing color was not there. So in the case of P, it was correct. But if we are considering the blood group of human being, whether it is correct or not, we have A group is there, B group is there, and we have AB also, right. So that means according to Mendel, it must be A or B. There will not be any AB, right, but it's not like that. So that means there are some other inheritance patterns also, right, such as we can say that incomplete dominance is there, co-dominance is there, multiple allelism, polygenic inheritance and pleiotropy. These all are the non-Mendelian inheritance, or we can say that the other type of inheritance pattern. One by one we will go and we will learn what all these things. First, today we are going to discuss about the incomplete dominance. Incomplete dominance, what do you mean by that? Actually, incomplete dominance, that means the expression is not at all complete, right? So here we are taking a case of that. Here some plants are there like Snapdragon, right, or Mirabilis jalapa, the 4 o'clock plant. Maybe you have heard about that in your home, maybe the flower will be there. I will show you the picture, you can see that, right, Mirabilis jalapa or 4 o'clock plant, even Snapdragon, right. So these two flowers, you can see that they have actually both red varieties also there, white varieties also there, right. In most of them, if we are crossing that, we have to get that. According to Mendel inheritance, it must be either red or it must be either white, right. इसमें से कोई सा भी एक color, right, that we can say that. But actually they are getting a pink variety, that means a mixture of white and red. So that is actually not at all according to Mendel. So how it is actually forming, we will go through the cross, right. So here we are taking a Snapdragon flower, Snapdragon, right, Snapdragon or Mirabilis jalapa, whatever it is. We are taking a plant which is having red color flower, red, right. I cannot draw the round because it's not a gamete. So red color flower, and another one we are taking a variety which is having white, right. So this is the dominant trait and this is the recessive trait. Whenever the gamete formation will be there, according to law of segregation, the character will be separate, right, segregate and form the gametes, right. So we got that capital R one gamete, another one small r. Then in the F1 generation, they will cross together, they will pair each other to form capital R small r, which is a hybrid, right. According to Mendel, it must be the dominant character, that means the phenotype of this must be red. But when they experimentally gone through that, they got a pink color flower in that first filial generation, right. So that means first generation, instead of red, they got pink, right. So that means it's neither the dominant one nor the recessive one, right. So we can get a combination of that. The hybrid is actually a combination. We can say that it is actually the hybrid which is having both red and white combination, it become to pink, right. To understand that what is actually happening, they again selfing that, that means F1 with F1, right. So here you can see that capital R small r cross with capital R small r. It must be a hybrid, right, both characters are there, right. Once they cross, they got the gametes, you can see that again law of segregation, capital R, small r, capital R, small r, 2 gametes, right? Here only one variety was there, that's why one gamete. Here there are 2 gametes, right? Because both are dominant, that allele will also be there, one recessive allele will also be there. So that gamete. So if you are checking how the combination will be there, I have made a small checkerboard column here, that Punnett square. You can see here capital R, small r, capital R, here capital R, small r, and here also capital R, small r. If they are pairing, one you can take as a male or a female, whatever it is, capital R, and capital R, small r. Here capital R, small r, and small r, small r. This will be the genotype. What will be the phenotype? Expected phenotype is that this must be red. Obviously this must be red. Why? These are the dominant one. Both alleles same, then it must be red. And what about this one? This must be white. According to Mendel, it must be red and this must also be red. But actually they got not that result. They got these two are actually the pink. You can see that this, they got the result, it's actually pink. That means you can see that here the homozygous, right, dominant one, that's actually red, and homozygous recessive, which is the recessive trait, white. But heterozygous one, neither they have to be according to the law of dominance, that R, capital R, the dominant character must be expressed, but here it is not happening, right? So they got a combination of that. They got that red and white combination, that's the pink one. I hope you understand. So here we can say that this is an incomplete dominance. That means dominant trait is there, but it failed to express completely, right? So that means if we cannot say that it is the recessive trait they expressed. If it is recessive trait expressed, then it must be white. But here it's not white also. If it is red itself, but it failed to express completely. So that's why we are telling incomplete dominance. So they got a mixture of pink color, not become red. I hope you understand what is the term means incomplete dominance. So from here, if you are going for the definition, we can say that inheritance in which heterozygous offsprings shows intermediate character between two parental characteristics, right? So we can say that the inheritance in which the heterozygous trait, right, the heterozygous of offsprings, it will show the intermediate character, right, intermediate, not the dominant one, neither the dominant one nor the recessive one. It shows the intermediate character between the parental characteristics, right. So here the parental characteristic, it is red and white, so they got the intermediate in between, right. So that's why heterozygous, especially you have to remember that heterozygous offsprings, they show an intermediate character. So that's why it is called incomplete dominance. Example, you can see that mainly the flower color in Snapdragon and Mirabilis jalapa, which is otherwise known as that 4 o'clock plant. This Snapdragon, otherwise known as dog flower and all, that also you can see that. So here, if you are taking the phenotypic and genotypic ratio, you can see here the phenotypic ratio, right. So that means that what are the expressed ratio, right. Here you can see that 1 red and 2 pink, right, and 1 white. So the phenotypic ratio got 1:2:1, right. If you are going for the genotypic ratio, what is the genotypes here? You can see that 1 capital R, 1 small r, and 2 capital R, small r, right. So here also the ratio become 1:2:1. So that means here the phenotypic and genotypic ratio are same in the case of incomplete dominance, right. So here we can, what we understand from this, we can easily understand the character, right, that we are telling that R, right, the dominant character we are telling, it's not completely dominant over the recessive character. So that's why we are telling it's an incomplete dominance. Dominance is still there, but it's not completely dominant, right. So that's why we can say that R is actually the dominant character is actually incompletely, not completely dominant over the recessive character. Pea plant also actually showing incomplete dominance in some other traits. Not the 7 characters what we learned, but in some other traits, you can see that pea plant will also show the same type of incomplete dominance. I hope you understand the incomplete dominance properly, right. So here what we have discussed that non-Mendelian inheritance, that means Mendelian inheritance, we have already discussed that either that tall one or the dwarf one, whatever the character is there, right, either what we can say that both extremes we can say that there is no intermediate one, right. But in that now if other patterns, if you are checking the other right varieties, you can see that there is some other pattern they are following, such as incomplete dominance, multiple allelism, pleiotropy and polygenic inheritance, like that. One by one we are going to learn. Here we have learned that incomplete dominance. In this what we understand, in incomplete dominance some of the traits right not at all dominant in the heterozygous offsprings. That's actually they fail to express completely. So that's why we named it as incomplete dominance. Examples we are learning here, that is actually Mirabilis jalapa and the Snapdragon flower, in which actually the red color which is the dominant one, right, and the white was the recessive one, but actually in the F2, F1 generation they got heterozygous pink variety also. That means it is actually the intermediate variety which is not following the Mendelian inheritance. I hope you understand it clearly.